original girl Utena has ended, for me at least. The series closes out in a surreal and abstract way, just as I thought it would, based on how it was evolving through the seasons. The symbolism is stronger than ever, and fun to try and link the connections. I can't say I'm too satisfied with the end, but there's still the movie left for me after this. Going through this, I gained more respect for Toga. Sanji explains how Toga is for the most part, but I feel the viewers might misunderstand him. He spent the whole series playing out the seductive playboy who had all women over him and seemed like he had strange or bad intentions. And despite being surrounded by women, sadly, he was unable to have the only woman he ever really wanted and loved, that being Utena herself. At least he manages to have a moment for one night to be next to her under the stars. He was the great break brother, though he lies to Nanami and says they aren't. Now that I think about it, he had a reason for lying about that to her, but they never went back to address it. Toga tells Utena during their last duel that he wants to protect her. He knows well what Aoki is doing and tries to defeat her in order to save her from him and be together with her. He loses and gets denied his dream. Did Toga really do anything wrong? My favorite characters were the Shadow Girls for their ridiculous drama performances, but I'd say Toga is right behind them. Himemiya herself is conflicted about siding with either Utena or her brother. The incest is addressed, but the viewers just get a so what for the most part. In the last video, it was revealed that Akio had managed to woo Utena. She knows it's wrong because Aoki supposedly has a fiance, which never appears again at this point. Despite the contradictions, the two continue to get closer and closer. Eventually, Utena walks in on what Himemiya and Aoki do sometimes at night, but doesn't make a scene like I thought she was going to. The end of the series involves Aoki trying to open the Rose Chamber just to fail. He also failed to trick Utena into living with him happily and in love forever in the castle in the sky. This is because Utena is revealed to in a dream the truth about Himemiya and what had happened to her. She is a witch who is struggling through a curse that she seems to willingly keep herself in. Utena tosses away the chance to be Aoki's princess and fights him to save Himemiya from this suffering. There is no world revolution that takes place here, as Utena fails to do so. On the other hand, Himemiya herself goes through a personal revolution of values. She takes Utena's revolution. The viewers may have not realized it, but the ending was being told to them nearly every episode, but subtly. Some scenes get played out of order, and one of them reveals Himemiya trying to jump off a tall building. She gets saved by Utena, and the two have emotional breakdowns about who is using who. In the end, Himemiya betrays Utena and stabs her in the back. Still, Utena is determined to save her and managed to open the Rose Chamber after Akio failed, despite her stab wound. In the Rose Chamber is a coffin in what seems to be the real Himemiya, but they are unable to grab onto each other's hands as the chamber collapses. Utena, in her desperation, yells out her true feelings if she was at her happiest when she was with Himemiya. It's obvious to anyone who watches the whole series that Himemiya feels the same way about Utena as well. The million swords that were being taken in by the other Himemiya's body then regroup and all come crashing down into a dying Utena as everything collapses and the world seems to return to normal. Akio has hilariously been drinking out of a glass during this. Himemiya now seems to have changed and tells off Akio, telling him that Utena is still around but not in his world. She goes off to go look for her, and I would assume that the two will meet up and keep their promise of 10 years to still be laughing, bonding, and drinking tea together. The ending is of course open to interpretation, and though Utena is forgotten, she and Himemiya get to keep the most important thing to them, each other. Lastly, I realized the ending was already shown in the opening if you really think about it. Let's live heroically, let's live with style. Even if the two of us are torn apart, take my revolution. Isn't that the ending? You knew the entire time. Thank you for listening. And Utena was an amazing anime. I'll be back for the movie.